Hello everyone and welcome to another video, this time about force feedback in Le Mans Ultimate. I have spotted a couple of videos on YouTube that are suggesting editing some files and so on, and I feel like I need to correct some issues in those videos, so I've decided to make my own, but not to keep the intro too long. Let's just dive straight in. So this is how I set up my FFB and what I believe is correct and incorrect when editing those files. So the first thing that you want to do is go into settings and go into controls. Of course you want to set up all of your steering, car controls and so on controls. Then go to calibrate. So what I'm using here is just use steering wheel range from vehicle as on, and use steering wheel maximum rotation from driver as on, everything to 0, and head vibration to off. Although this is not really force feedback related, but this is what I am running. And in force feedback effects on, invert force feedback is off for a CSL DD with the power pack, so the 8 Nm version. Force feedback strength is set to 85%. Force feedback smoothing, I run it as 0 because I like to have my force feedback to be really raw, not dampened out and smoothed in any way. And minimum steering torque as 0%. Collision strength at 150%. And steering torque sensitivity also at 150%. Although I'm running a DD, and if you look at the right description here, it says values above 100% increase force feedback strength at lower levels without clipping. This is typically for lower powered steering wheels. Do not use values about 100% on direct drive wheels. Although I am using a direct drive wheel, I'm using 150, and as default you'll see you will have this turned down to 100. But I'm running it at 150, particularly for hypercars, to give it a little bit more strength in the lower end of the FFB. So when you are traveling slowly or through slow corners, the steering does feel a little bit heavier. And this is where I think most people are struggling with FFB and LMU, that they don't have this feeling in the low speed corners, and this is, I feel, what improves it. You can play with this, set it higher or lower, but this is what I'm running at. This is important to set up everything first in LMU, because once you start changing this, the game will create a necessary file that we are going to change in a minute. Okay, and before we dive into the game files, I thought I'd also show my Fanalab fine-tuning settings, or in the tuning menu. As you can see, I have sensitivity set to 900, so this is my wheel rotation. But it doesn't matter because the cars have like 450, 470 degrees of rotation anyway, so 900 is more than enough. Force feedback strength, I have it set to 100, which gives me max torque of 8 Nm. Force feedback scale is set to peak, and we have natural damper off, natural friction off, natural inertia also off, and FFB interpolation filter at off. Force feedback intensity, I have it set to 100, game force effect strength 100, game spring effect 100, and game damper effect to also 100. I have a very basic tuning set on my wheel, and this gives me a very raw output of the force feedback, which is just the way I like it. Of course, you can tune this to your preference, how you wish. But yeah, these are kind of my settings. So now let's go and jump into the game files. Okay, and to get to the game files, the easiest way to get there is to load up Steam and go to your library, to Le Mans Ultimate, right-click on it, go to Manage, and click Browse Local Files. This opens a new Explorer window with the location of the Le Mans Ultimate. we will want to go to user data. And this is where most of the videos get their things wrong. They go straight to controller, which makes sense, and then to presets. And where you do have all of these wheels listed, but these are preset files. It is just what the name suggests. This is what I think the game doesn't even use anymore. But this is just a preset where you have the default settings for all of those wheels set up here. But changing any of these values has absolutely no effect in the game. Doesn't matter if you change the right or the incorrect one. For example, steering effect strength is the force feedback strength expressed in percents in the game. So for example, 85, like I have it set, would be 8,500 and not 10,000. And if you go and change this in your correct wheel, of course I'm now in Logitech G27, which is wrong, but if you go and do that in your wheel, save this file and go in game, you'll see that the steering effect strength in the game will still remain whatever you have set it up to. So let's just close this. This is the wrong location, and you don't want to be changing these files because they make absolutely no difference. Now let's go back to user data. In here we are going to navigate to player, and if you have made the changes of your wheel setup in the game, you should have a direct input.json file here. If you do not have it, then you have not made changes to your controller in the game. So go back in the game, make the changes, and this file will appear here. So if you cannot open this file by double clicking, right click on it, click on open with, and search for Notepad. And I have the always use this app to open JSON file selected so that I can always just double click on it. Let's go, Notepad. And this is where we are greeted with. So as you can see, the 85,000, sorry, not 85, 8,500, sorry. Steering effect strength is my force feedback strength. And this is what I have set up with. So the jolt magnitude is what in-game is called the collision strength, or whatever the exact name is. 1.5 means 150%, so 1 is 100%. Point something, so 0.1 is 10%, and so on and so on. Steering bump degrees is 40. Steering minimum torque 0, as we saw in the game. Steering torque sensitivity is 1.5. This is the steering torque sensitivity where it says that it shouldn't go above 100%. Again, above 1 for direct drive wheels, but I feel this gives it a lot stronger low speed force feedback, so I have it set to 150%. Moving down, yeah, this is input axis properties, the sensitivity of axis. That all of this you can set in game. You don't need to change any of these. Also up here, I think apart from steering bump stop degrees, in here you can change everything in the game, so you don't need to edit it here. But if you scroll down a little bit, you will get to options, and the first couple of them are not really FFB related, at least until you get to steering aggression. I believe, but by default those are all set to 0.5, and I have set them all up at 1.0. So steering aggression, steering rate factor, steering return rate multiplier, steering sensitivity, all set to 1.0. All were, I believe, by default 0.5. And steering snap factor, I have it 0.89999 and so on. I set it up as a 0.9, but the game overrides it and gives it an approximation of the 0.9. So this is by default, I believe, also 0.5, and I upped it to 0.9. I feel that this gives the force feedback a bit more aggressive feeling in directional changes and so on. I have a feeling it does give me a lot better feel of the car, what's happening with the tires and so on. Steering speed sensitivity is also controllable in game. It's set to 0, and that's pretty much it. When you are editing this file, do take sure that you are changing the correct instance, which can be found in the instance name or below in the product name. As you can see, because all of your controllers that you have connected are listed here, like the SH8 shifter controller that I also have connected, and it has all the same values or all the same options, even though the shifter controller doesn't have the axis and force feedback and so on. Also my pedals and everything are listed here. So do make sure you are editing for your wheel. And like I said, these are my settings for the CSL DD 8 Newton meter. Go ahead and copy those if you wish to. Yeah, this is the file where you want to be making those changes and not in the other one. One final thing before we are going to close it up is yeah, we're going to open, for example, Moza R9. The settings that I see a lot of videos suggesting to change are the steering resistance coefficient and steering resistance saturation and steering torque capability, which is the strength of your wheelbase's force feedback output, which for Moza R9 would probably be a 9, but here it's listed at 5. These settings have been available in the game before. They are no longer available, not in the game, not in the files. They haven't just removed these options from the game for you to be changing them in the JSON files. They have removed them completely because I believe the dev team has said that they didn't make, or they didn't work as intended on the force feedback, so that's why they removed them. If you don't believe me, go ahead, change them to some silly values here. I've tried it. I've located the right file for my wheel. I changed the steering effect strength to 0, went back into game. It was still set up as I had it set before. I changed those values to insane values. My force feedback felt absolutely no different. Steering torque capability doesn't feel any different either. You can copy these values to the direct input JSON file on in your player folder. But the game removes them because they are no longer in use and they make absolutely no difference. So you don't need to be changing these. And with this, yeah, this is, I believe, a good ending point for the video. Thank you very much for watching, and if this does improve your force feedback, please do give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more such news in the future. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.